Hey, this is Kyle Stowers, and you're listening to Fish on First.
Fish on First live on the Foul Territory Network, presented by Jet Ski Rentals of South Florida. Fun sweep. The Marlins do get a series sweep against the Sacramento/Las Vegas Athletics out in a minor league park somewhere in Sacramento. Let's start with the positives. Marlins have two All-Star representatives, and they both performed well in this series. Nothing to take away from them. Defended their cases very well, particularly Otto, Max as well. So that was awesome. The offense showed up in abundance in this series. It was very good. Lots of long balls, lots of runs. Mm-hmm. They have a positive run differential. If this continues and they end with a positive run differential somehow this season, it will be the first time they've done it since 2008. Lots of things to be happy about with the Marlins. This is a team that is surpassing my expectations, and I think a lot of other people's expectations in terms of how it is performing. Even if this was against a bad team, they haven't lost a series in a bit. They've lost one series since the start of June, and things are okay right now, but better than okay for the Marlins as a whole. This series, on the other hand, even though it was a sweep, I would say that we leave the series and leave Sacramento coming home, right, to face the Mariners, I think it is, with a little bit of sour taste in the mouth, and we'll get to that here in a second. As we cover the first game of this series, which just ended, Marlins win by a final score of 9-8, a game they were leading 8-0. It takes that last run that was that Liam Hicks drove in on a little swibbler to the pitch. That's the winning run in the game, in a game where Eury Pérez was absolutely dominating. The winning run was scored in this game in the 8th inning. So unbelievable, just out of hand. The Marlins always find a way to surprise you, no matter what, no matter if it's good or bad. This particular game was very bad. In all of our opinions, I think we all agree. I know there's discourse going on Twitter between fans, media members, people that work for the team, people that don't work for the team. But we're always going to give it to you 100%. And listen, I'll start it this way before I go to you guys. I get the decision to protect the pitcher. I get it. He's 2 starts off the IL. It's a young kid. In that moment, he's going to be fireballing his ass off. He's going to be going for that 100% like it's the 7th game of the World Series. Absolutely. So you protect the player from himself by taking him out. However, leaving him in could have done so much better. Not only is he your best chance to win, as Blake Bacher and Pete Fairbanks proved, not only is he your best chance to win, and you need every win you can get, 2 more innings of Eury Pérez is your best chance to win in that situation. That's number one. No matter if you're talking about the stretch or whatever it is, you're in the moment right now and you need to win a baseball game. I don't care if it's 15-0, you leave that pitcher in. That is your best chance to win the baseball game. Number 2 is you could have done so many things, ignited the team, ignited the fan base, given the town something to talk about. They're still struggling to get fans in here. People ain't believing in this team until they're performing like this in the end of August. Then maybe they'll be selling out Lone Depot Park. They're not doing that right now. It's going to take a lot more of this. But to give them the fact they can say, hey, this team just threw a perfect game, that gets you a lot more buy-in. So without going too far on my own, I'm going to go to you guys. Isaac, I'll go to you first. I think we all agree this is a bad decision. I gave you my reasons why it's a bad decision. I'll go to you first. Go ahead.
Bad decision is complicated. I certainly probably would have done something differently because we have to appreciate the fact that every single game under this regime, it has been plan-oriented. Part of the plan, every single starting pitcher, every time they do this with a starting pitcher, we always ask the same thing, and it is always part of the plan. Now, should they pivot from that plan when something like a perfect game is realistically possible here? 6 outs away, probably. And I understand the argument. Okay, he goes up for the 8th. He has to go pitch the 9th at that point, and then you're getting to like the 105, 115 range, which you want to avoid. But my argument would be you're in the 8th inning. That inning will decide it for you. If it's a quick, swift, 1, 2, 3 inning in the 8th, like it was in the 7th, he could go out there below 100 pitches for the 9th, and there you let him finish. If he has a tough inning, if he labors a little bit, throws 20 pitches, or he gives up the perfect game, then you take him out right there on the spot. So I didn't love it. I'm a big history guy, and if there's a chance at doing something that only 24 other people have ever done in the history of this beautiful game, you let the kid do it. You don't know when this guy will have another opportunity. He probably will never have another opportunity to do this. So in that sense, it's tough. But like I said, we also have to appreciate the discipline because, oh my God, imagine having to take out your starting pitcher at 92 pitches in a perfect game. So that sucks. It's not a tough position to be in, but I would have certainly gone about it a different way and let him get the 8th, and what if he has a 3-pitch inning? What if he has a 5-pitch inning?
Right.
And so if I were to take him out too, you better go with someone high leverage here.
Right.
Like you finish that perfect game.
Well, how is it?
Go with
that's
Bacher.
another. We can get to that too. How is that your decision to go to
you don't
Blake
go
Bacher?
with Bacher
Or
Bacher's
Peterson even.
Right. And
the big issue is with going with Bacher, they treated it as if like it's any other game.
Right.
This
they treated it
wasn't
like any other
game.
Yeah.
This wasn't the guy was throwing a perfect.
They didn't
game.
care. They care. Yeah.
Look, I appreciate Clayton. Clayton's been nothing but good with us. But man, when I say this is probably the worst decision he's made as the manager of the Marlins, it's up there. Like you don't take a guy out of a perfect game. In no world do you take someone out of a perfect game, especially the way Eury was throwing, where it was good. He was looking great. There was no other way to say it. And to not take out Bacher earlier was also weird. I understand that, you wanted to use him as much as he could and try to see if you could maybe stretch him out for those last 2 innings of the game, but it was a bad decision. I'm not one to say that the Marlins ever deserved to lose a game, but the way it was going, it was going that way where they lost. Yeah. I wouldn't have been surprised. But you know what? They're 7 games over 500. They are currently now tied for the 3rd wild card spot. All is well.
Okay. Thank you.
That was terrible. There's
I think all as well is an exaggeration. I mean, the road trip went about as well as could reasonably happen.
Everything went well with that.
Yeah. So it's it really is just absolute pure too good to script that you have one of the best starting appearances ever made in Marlins history, and it's immediately followed by one of the worst bullpen meltdowns in the entire franchise's history. Like Bacher, we could poke holes in the decision to bring in him in particular if you're going to the pen. Bacher's been pretty good this year. He's never had an outing like that in his entire Major League career. I mean, the fact that he faced 6 guys, didn't retire a single one, for him to totally melt down like that, it feels like something almost supernatural that it happened that way. I think that is the baseball gods kind of like roaring back at Clayton McCullough for this decision, which, I mean, when we talk about these decisions, we need to acknowledge the fact that it's not a Clayton McCullough only decision. This is a collaborative process. This is, I'm sure, communication with several different levels of the Marlins organization, even before this game, about what Eury could realistically have done, given that he is shortly removed from coming back from the IL, given that he was not fully stretched out when he came back from the IL. This, theoretically should have been the start where he was fully stretched out again as a starter, but this is a guy that's never gone 9 innings in a game. He's never gone has he ever gone 8 innings? I know he's pitched in the 8th inning, but this was going to blow past, anything he's ever previously done. With that being said, I mean, just watching this game and how easy he made it look, especially at the very end of that, I thought his final inning that he pitched was as good as any inning, as effortless as any inning that he had thrown on a day where really the separator was that his command overall was as good as I've ever seen it with all his pitches. Like his velo was totally regular. In terms of swing and miss, that was pretty much in line with an average Eury appearance. It was more so that he just was not throwing meatballs for anybody to take advantage of. And that's why he got all these lazy pop-ups, all these routine grounders, and also his fair share of strikeouts that were just beautifully placed on both corners. Pitching east to west in particular today, he was just marvelous. He was perfect. And when he just shows no sign of tiring, there is a difference between a perfect game and a no-hitter. I think people like to group them together, but this is something that was totally unprecedented in Marlins history, that they were this close to against a team that they had all weekend long had just absolutely demoralized. It seemed like a situation to me where this is where some intangibles, some real feel for the game has to come in. And they're lucky that they won this game, because it would have jumped right to the top of the list of one of the worst losses ever for in a regular season, at least for this Marlins team. How that was gross the way that it ended. And I think whoever is ultimately responsible for that call, maybe it is Clayton in that moment that actually has to make that decision to take Eury out here, to say that you have a long future ahead of us. But this is even something that they mentioned on the broadcast. I can't remember whether it was specifically Chris Carey or Dallas Braden or Gabby Sanchez. It was like one of them pointing out that he has such a long career ahead of him, which he does. He's 23 years old, and he's been pitching extraordinarily well before his injury, since he's coming back. Like, there's reason to think he's going to have other gems in his career. There's not really a good reason to think he's going to pitch another perfect game in his career, because that so rarely happens. And I think that's where you just need to emphasize how unique a situation this was. Even if he wasn't necessarily perfect, even if every pitch wasn't perfect, even if there was a situation where he was behind in the count 3-1 and he missed low, and if they challenge that pitch with ABS challenge right there, the perfect game is over. That was in the 6th inning, if I had that correct. So he wasn't flawless in his outing, but the results are the results. Like, perfect results are something that people remember forever, even more vividly than no hitters. And for him to have that opportunity taken away from him, I feel is awful. And I think the fans are more upset than probably he is, and the fans might be more upset than his teammates are. But the fans are understandably furious about this. And I think it's just another one of those really weird in-game decisions that we've seen the Marlins make these last couple of years, a lot of which actually work out. Overall, this is a team that's like overachieving considering what we thought they'd be talent-wise and experience-wise. But still, like, these are the moments that are still a step back, I would think, to handle the situation the way that they did.
Nate, I want to get your thoughts on this before we go on, because we have much more to cover rather than just this. I know, as Kevin, you were mentioning, I don't want to let this overshadow, as Eli was talking about, what was a great series and great road trip for the Marlins, and they feel good coming home for sure. I think they could have felt a lot better, if that were to happen. If that history were to happen, it would have been just amazing for one of the youngest kids on the team to have that moment. Would have been great for the fan base, great for the team, everything else. But we were saying, Nate, before you got here, what happened after they took Eury out, it didn't even seem like they cared what was going on. They just treated it like, okay, we're up by 8 runs. Let's just put in our bulk reliever. Like that, I can't get. Maybe I can get past the decision to take Eury out. Fine. I was saying how it could ignite the fan base, like give them something to be, wow, the Marlins did something amazing and they treated it like it was just another game. And Bacher comes in and gives up a grand slam and doesn't even get an out. The decision to take Eury out, I guess you could sway both sides of the aisle. The decision to go to Lake Bacher followed by Michael Peterson, and then only Fairbanks probably because you had to, that to me is terrible.
Yeah, I think it's just so many things go into this, right? I think it was almost like divine intervention from the baseball gods that, hey, you're going to take a guy out with the perfect game through 7. I mean, I don't even hate going to Michael Peterson there, but going to Lake, I mean, I'm a big fan of Lake Bacher, but even going to drive that just a little bit more high leverage from the start, because Mike got out of it perfectly fine. I think my big thing is, like, I don't know, I grew up a big fan of this team, and let's be real here. There's never been any national attention about the Miami Marlins, right? Except when they go on their runs here and there and make the playoffs. They're playing their best baseball that they've played since at least 2023, and I guarantee you all that's going to be played on ESPN, MLB Network, Fox, all over Twitter. All you're going to see are the A's fans chanting shame at Clayton when this team has played. I mean, they just killed the road trip. It's the truth. I guarantee you'll see more of that than anything else. And it is such a shame that this team is playing such good baseball. And Eury, I mean, let's be real here. I don't think, honestly, Eury is going to be in that position ever again. That's just speaking truthfully. I mean, with the walk issues that he's had in the past, and one ABS call goes another way, when a guy's that close to history, and I mean, what is 20 pitches really going to do? I mean, the last time the Marlins babied Eury 3 years ago, his arm popped anyway in spring training the next year. So it's just how it is with pitchers now. The arm's going to pop eventually. So it is a shame that it had to work out like this. And like you said, Carver, you don't want this to overshadow what the Marlins have been doing. But we're 15 minutes into the stream, and we have not said a word about the road trip they just had, and they just swept the A's. So it's a shame, but the Marlins, at least they pulled it out. Pete Fairbanks, when is the last time he is not allowed to run in an appearance? If you don't give that guy at least a 2-run cushion, I don't know. So there's a lot to digest here, but I think we should finally get to the fact that they did win this series and sweep, and they're coming back to Miami 7 games over, and that the fans that are, that can make it to the game, they should show out and appreciate the team before the All-Star break.
Yeah, I did have to look that up.
Positive. I mean,
sorry, Carter. Just regarding Fairbanks, because even if you give him a 4-run lead, he seems to always make it interesting, and he hasn't had a
series. The Rangers
scoreless
example.
Right, as a scoreless inning since the Giants, and then over his since the beginning of April. So yeah, after the first homestand, he's given up 19 earned runs in 22 innings pitched. It's almost a run per inning for him. Over a pretty lengthy period of time, honestly. The Marlins are ironically 18-6 in those games, but still, they're gonna have to shore up the back end of that pen a little bit, because who knows where Bender's gonna be, who knows where a lot of these guys are gonna be past the deadline, including Fairbanks. But yeah, it's been a rough stretch for Pete.
Earned run in every outing since, what was it, the June 20th game against the Giants. So that's
Right.
what, 4 consecutive outings now.
Yeah. Just to echo that point, I think I meant to bring it myself, but I rambled in too many different directions. The fact that blowing up in a game like this, and for Fairbanks to again be in the middle of it, you're running out of time for him to prove anything in regards to him being like back to his usual self, or even back to who he was last year. Like there's this big sample of evidence that just points to the fact that this is his worst season. It doesn't mean that he's useless, but the idea of going forward down the stretch with him as your highest leverage reliever and your most important reliever. And for the moment, I mean, I guess the next man up, if healthy, would have been Anthony Bender. But Bender is hurt. That's something that we kind of glossed over, but I think that's something that's pretty relevant in this situation. If people had gone to Bender, for example, in the 8th inning, I think it's a different vibe than if they go to somebody like Bacher, given how Bender has pitched this year. So I personally have not given too much attention to the idea of like relief pitching being a priority heading into the trade deadline. But the fact that there's depending on Bender's health, and even if he is healthy, like the fact that it's not one guy you can love going to in that situation to somewhat like soften the blow of, that controversial decision. I think that just speaks to the fact that, yeah, they could use even more talent there among other areas, as well as they've been playing right now. They could still use more outside help, and the bullpen is one of those many areas that they should be exploring.
One last thing real quick with Eury, like people talked about the injury and they're trying to just, have him come back, and it was a leg injury. It's not like his arm was shot or he had a leg. Like it was none of that. It was a leg injury. Like I understand, like, yes, you got to ease him back in, but like there's a reason he only had one rehab start in Jacksonville, and this was a lot quicker than expected because it was a leg injury. It's not like this was a forearm strain or a shoulder injury that, like, you know what, then at that point, fine, sure, whatever. You took him out, whatever. There's so many ways to dive into this, but it really, truly is not the right decision. And I think Eli noted this, like, you need to have feel for the game, man. And I think that's been a big issue with this coaching staff since day one, just lack of feel. You're in a position where you can make history. And even then, you took him out, fine. You're in a position where you could be the first team ever in Major League Baseball, first team ever to have a combined perfect game. Like, that's still relatively cool, if you ask me, regardless of how you slice it. I don't know. Just bad decision-making there. But, yeah, they won. Good for them. They almost blew it, like, literally. I mean, you could not have asked for, like, the worst situation after. But, yeah, they won. Good for them.
One of the funnier arguments that I've seen on Twitter has been that it's very hot outside in Sacramento. Did baseball not used to be played in the winter? Like, what am I saying? What are we doing?
Right, every game was played outside. This game was only ever played outside.
I've seen the Marlins play baseball games in St. Louis in July in 105-degree field temperature. Give me a break, man. What are we doing here?
Yeah, I want to say that.
Where did Eury grow up? Learning how to play
DR.
baseball. Did he grow up learning how to play in domes in Lone Depot Park? No. Come on.
I covered one Eury start this year when he was at Yankee Stadium, and it was like 55 degrees and a little breezy. And it's like he goes out of his way to bring up how it was a little cold. Like he wasn't making excuses, but he walked like 6 guys and he said, "Yeah, it's a little cold. I don't like the cold weather." So if anything, I think these are ideal conditions, and that's why I don't think it's a total coincidence that he pitched well under these conditions. It's
in California, and he's in. And they have. It's not like these are dugouts in high school. These are well-equipped Major League Baseball dugouts with all the water in the world and all the electrolytes in the world, and it's like I said, it's in Northern California.
I'm also going to be curious. Obviously, we haven't listened to Clayton yet, but we all remember when he took out Sandy earlier this year, and he said that was his decision. He'll take the blame for it. I'm curious to see how this all came to be at the end of the day. If this was a Clayton-only decision where he said, "I'm going to take charge here and I'm going to take him out," or if this was a collective decision. I'm assuming it was more collective, but still, I mean, regardless of how you slice it, just
as we said at the start, we have to move on. As we said at the start, there is that modicum of protecting the player from himself, and you get it. But the history of that has to. If it's a no hitter and that's where you're at, I'd be like, all right, you know what? Fine, still sucks, but okay, you get it. You're protecting that player from himself. But Kevin, to your point, Eury coming back from an arm injury in May threw more than 92 pitches. So we could go a million different directions, but we got to stop because we got to go on. I do want to get to positives. This isn't. I didn't want to just make this a slam show about this decision, which we'll probably continue to talk about as the season goes on. But they do sweep the series, and there's a lot of positives that I do want to get to. So we'll put Eury in the back in the rear view for now. The good thing is he did go 7 perfect. I think he'll be able to build confidence after the start, even though he had to watch the bullpen kind of almost squander away the lead behind him. This is still a good confidence building block start for Eury. And Eury, as we all know, with how he is attitude wise and how he pitches with his heart on his sleeve, he needs confidence more than anything else. And I think he'll pull that away from the start, even though he was pulled when I don't think he should have been. We'll go on. What we all think and what we all have thought all season is that there's some true all-stars on this team, and 2 of them got those nods before the series started and defended those selections in the series, one being Otto Lopez. So I want to talk about this kid. Probably should have been the starting shortstop in the National League. I think is the best shortstop in the National League. Probably not so arguably is the best shortstop in the National League. He won't be starting because of fan voting, but he does get his rightful selection. And he's in the midst of one of the greatest offensive and even defensive seasons by any Marlins shortstop of all time. I mean, this guy in this series became the 8th player in franchise history with 25 doubles and 9 homers, at least in the first half of a Marlins season. One of the last players that did that is Hanley Ramirez, Isaac's boy. So I think that when you compare these 2 seasons, which I think is a great thing to look at, whether Otto gets to Hanley or not, we'll talk about. I want to ask you, Isaac, that question. Can he get to where Hanley was that season, which is one of the greatest seasons in Marlins history? I think he could, but I want to get your thoughts on that. That season, of course, Hanley wins a batting title. He had like 340 something. I think where Otto loses out is on the power side of things, but he's up to 9 homers. I mean, and the 25, 26 doubles, whatever he has now, pretty awesome. So can he get to where your boy Hanley was in 2009 offensively? He's definitely already there and past him defensively because Hanley wasn't great defensively for most of his career. But offensively, can Otto get to where Hanley was that year in 2009?
I mean, the extra base hits and the impact that Otto's bat has been able to contribute this year is what's really separated him from what we thought he could be a couple years back or last year. Because holy crap, the guy is slugging over 500. These are Bryce Harper type numbers. When you compare him to Hanley, I don't want to compare the 2 because Hanley in 2009 was arguably the best player in baseball, right? He lost the MVP to a prime Albert Pujols. He was legitimately the best player in baseball, one of the best players, a top 5 player in baseball at the very worst. So it's hard for me to compare the 2 immediately, but with Otto Lopez, just the fact that we're even having this discussion from a waiver claim is just incredible. And the fact that WRC Plus damn near similar, the batting average identical, and they're both slugging in the high 500s and the low 500s, I should say. So, like I said, just the fact that it's even a discussion with the amount of extra base hits Otto is bringing in, as well as the Gold Glove defense, he's become a hell of a valuable player. I believe he just eclipsed 4 F-WAR on the season, and there's still a whole other, 3 months left of baseball games being played. So I'm really excited to see. I believe Hanley accumulated 7.2 WAR in 2009. So it's not far off that Otto could eclipse him in that way.
I was writing up the Otto All-Star piece, and if you look at single seasons, there's 4 from Hanley, and then Otto's right behind him. So Otto in terms of B WAR, so he's got an opportunity to really cement himself into a really good spot, and I think he has the 3rd most B WAR among Marlins shortstops, career. So it's behind Hanley at the top and Miggy Rowe, but the season Otto's having is just incredible. And you're finally starting to see a little bit more of a power surge, despite the ballparks they played in this road trip. It's still good to see. And defensively, after a slow start, he really just got it going. I mean, Otto, the season he's having is one of the best we've seen in a very long time. And I think you're reaching a point where Otto, I'm not going to say he's going to win an MVP. He will not. Shohei's there. There's a lot of guys that are there. But to say lower top 10, that's not crazy to think, right? I mean, he's putting up one of the best seasons in this franchise's history. He's one of the best shortstops in the National League. He should have been starting the All-Star game. You could have made the case for him at least to be one of the finalists to start. So yeah, no, I mean, and this series only cemented his all-star case.
Yeah, something I haven't seen a whole lot is like people. I think it's useful to contextualize what Otto's doing this year compared to like Stowers last year, because Stowers had this very fascinating breakout campaign, and I would say that the shape of his production looked a lot different. Like with Stowers, he got off to a pretty good start, and then he had a very deep slump in like late May and first half of June, and then he caught absolute fire after that. Won National League Player of the Month in July, his last fully healthy month. Whereas with Otto, it's just been freakishly consistent. The stat that I still think it's so simple, but yet so important. He has hits in every single series this entire season. It's hard enough to play in every single series entire season. To have hits, in most cases, several hits. In this particular series, it must have been 6 or 7 hits, including most of those for extra bases. He's just been that's to me, that's the aspect of the game. The simple like hit tool, I did not think was anywhere close to, I mean, forget like an 80 grade hit tool, but even like 65, 70 seemed extremely, extremely optimistic. And that's kind of what he's playing at this year, is an elite hit tool to go along with above average power, to go along with his continued plus base running, to go along with his above average defense at a premium position. So, I mean, as impressive as Stowers was, as many people that were wanted him to be an extension candidate, wanted him to be a face of a franchise, and he's now heating up and playing really well on his own. What Otto is doing is significantly more impressive, and I think that's just being borne out in the most basic way in terms of his overall value, wins above replacement. He's already produced more WAR this year than Stowers did all last year by a healthy margin, and that's where he compares pretty favorably to Hanley, on pace to kind of have the same WAR output that Hanley had at his very best season. Yeah, there's really no way to overstate what a big difference that has made with this Marlins team, from him going to a solid placeholder shortstop to going to, I think, unquestionably the best shortstop in the National League so far this season. It's been amazing.
Joined by Jeremiah, who was out on site for 2 of these games in Sacramento. West Coast coverage for Fish on First, which is great to see. So Jeremiah, we were talking about Otto. I know you get a chance to talk to him about what the All-Star game means to him. So we were just going over where this season for him could stand in terms of like greatest seasons ever by a Marlins shortstop, talking about Hanley and others. But yeah, just how he took the news for the All-Star game. We saw your interviews with him, but know you were there. So obviously awesome for him. And as Isaac was mentioning, turning a waiver claim into an All-Star by the Marlins, just absolutely amazing what Bendix has done with some of these guys. They pretty much find it nowhere, Hicks, Otto, and others. But yeah, go ahead. How was Otto's demeanor this series?
Yeah, he was having fun and was just super grateful, super happy that he was an All-Star. I mean, there was that like smile on his face just to have the privilege of going to the National League All-Star roster and participate hopefully in that game. It's a special thing for him. He told me he bought his suit 2 weeks ago. He had a feeling, and his face lit up when he was talking about red carpet, the festivities that go on, and it's well deserved. I mean, the day he finds out he's named to an All-Star game, he goes out and collects another 3 hits, another double, another home run. I mean, the guy is on fire, and there's no better shortstop in the National League. I'm going to go ahead and say that right now. You could say CJ Abrams, but for my money, the starter should be Otto Lopez, and it's a shame that he's not, but he's excited, and it's so well deserved for him. So happy for him.
We didn't see Max in this series, but I want to get to him too. He gets the nod in the All-Star game as well, first of his career. The Marlins proved a lot of people wrong with this one, and I'll include myself in the talk. Not only did I think that Meyer wouldn't be I didn't even think league average starter, and they turned him into an All-Star pitcher, and the best pitcher in this rotation so far this season. Just amazing, not only to be able to solve him mechanically and to add the sweeper and everything like that, but also to solve him mentally, I think was a task for the Marlins. And not only did they do the pitch and usage thing and give him that new pitch that they teach to so many pitchers so gracefully, they figured this player out with what he needs mentally. And I think that can't be left unsaid. So I don't think any of us ever expected the day to come where we would have said Max Meyer, All-Star starting pitcher. Pretty amazing, and another testament to pitching development all throughout this organization. They do it at the minors, they do it at the majors. The Marlins are very good with pitching development, and this is no exception. Nate, go ahead, Max Meyer.
Yeah, it's exactly what you said with pitching development, man. I mean, I think 2-3 years ago, like you said, if we would have said that Max Meyer would be an all-star come 2026, and even last year, I don't think anyone would have believed you after that blow-up Rockies start the beginning of June. So I think we've all been on it for the past couple of years that if this guy just mixes up his pitch mix a little bit, stops relying too much on that slider, then it's been magic pretty much for him. Developing that sweeper to play off that slider and his fastball has also been looking improved as well, has been huge. I think something underrated but really talked about when we discuss Max is the pitch calling from the dugout. I think that's just taking a load off of his mind. He doesn't have to worry about throwing the perfect pitch driver that he trusts, a guy like Rob Marcello to put himself in the best situation it is to get outs. And he's been great. His mental fortitude, I think, has come a long way as well. And you even saw it in his in the speech that the Marlins posted yesterday that he's finally healthy. He said that, he probably thought he'd be chalked by now or on the IL or something. But the fact that this guy's been able to be healthy, super durable, I think he's fifth in the national league in innings pitched. Exactly what the Marlins needed, especially with Sandy, still giving you innings. But I guess as of late, the production's been there, but he's been inconsistent for the past few years, as we all know. So the fact that Matt's has been doing this has been incredibly big for this team and is a huge reason as why they're, 7 games under at this point in the year, or 7 games over.
Yeah, and if you dive into that development, one of the big things is the addition of the sweeper. That pitch still is technically by run value his second best one. But with the slider with a +9 run value, which is one of the best pitch sliders in baseball, and then the sweeper is at +4, which is still great. It's still way above league average. You'll take that. I think the big thing too is the fastball. Clayton admitted this multiple times on scrums where Max's fastball just wasn't good enough. The four-seamer wasn't good enough. So they had the sinker to complement it a little bit. The sinker still has not been a good pitch in terms of run value, but it gets the job done. And the fastball has been better. Still not great, but still much better. And that's been a huge help. But the addition of the sweeper has really been the big change for him. I think that's been by far the biggest adjustment. If you have to pinpoint one thing, it's that. And then what Carver said is 100% true, the mental side of it. And great call by Nate with the pitch calling. I mean, he's noted that multiple times himself where he doesn't have to think too much now. He just goes out there and he gets the sign and he throws. Like, that's really about it. So, yeah, good stuff from Max. I know he unfortunately took his first loss. That was a big thing this year, the 9-0 record. But Isaac's bold prediction's off to a good start. Hopefully it ends. I think, what'd you say, Isaac? 15 wins for Max this year? So, he's got some time.
Yeah, he's well on pace to get there.
Yeah.
But we should, before we go to break, we should check in with Jeremiah again, even though we kind of went into detail on Eury and the decision. Jeremiah was the one in the clubhouse that got to hear from Clayton and Eury afterwards. So if you could give us a quick synopsis about, I guess, Clayton's explanation and then Eury's reaction to being pulled in the middle of perfection.
Yeah, Clayton acknowledged he knew what was going on, obviously. And there was a part of him that he wanted to leave Eury out there. But he also said that it was a predetermined decision. He said 90 pitches going into the 8th inning. It was a foregone conclusion. He was going to be taken out. I asked Eury if he had any conversation with Clayton regarding the decision, if there was any pushback. And Eury said he understood. He said, I told Clayton I understand. And there was no attempt to stay in the game. And Clayton just kind of acknowledged, like, yeah, I understood the gravity of the situation, and a part of me did want to leave him out there, but we have a plan. We're going to stick to that plan, and that's how it is.
It's just funny that Marlins PR got to Eury too quick. They got to him real quick there. It's unfortunate, but hey, that's fun. And the predetermined rule, 90 pitches in the 8th inning, you're done. So what, 90 pitches means the same as 99 pitches? Like, really? It's just some arbitrary number like that? That I don't like. I don't really love that explanation, though. Because what if he throws a 3-pitch 8?
That's the point where you need to have feel. Like, fuck it. Fuck that. Go out and
how do plans not change? Like, if there were any situation for your predetermined plan to change, that is one of the only situations in which you could say the plan has to change. And that comes from Clayton. It comes from Bendix or whoever else is making these decisions. Medical, whatever it is, you have to change your plans when something like that is happening. There's just far too much more reward than there is to the risk. You have to change that.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this, that in my opinion, You throw him out there for the 8th. You let him go hitter for hitter. If he loses the perfect game, you make that decision. But we're on the verge of witnessing history, and the entire stadium wanted to see history made. I mean, the A's fans were screaming and booing. It was loud from the press box. And what also I have to say is Eury audibly, or I could see Eury's emotion and how he was just in a groove all day long, and the A's hitters had no chance. There wasn't one hit that I felt like, oh, Eury got super lucky. I mean, it was weak contact, it was strikeouts, it was guys rolling over. And we're never going to know if Eury could have finished the perfect game. We're never going to know because the next hitter, Blake Bacher, walks, Lawrence Butler, and the rest is history. But I'm always going to wonder. I really am.
Yeah.
Okay. A whole lot more to discuss. Let's quickly throw it over to our friends at SeatGeek for the ad break, and then more to unpack from this. What was overall a very successful Marlins road trip? Stick with us.
Hey, SeatGeek is MLB's official ticket marketplace. And in addition to finding every single game on the MLB calendar, there are big events coming up very soon.
There's an all-star game. There's a home run derby. And if you think you're perfect and you can pick the right seat at the home run derby to get the most home run balls, you can get the little green dot, and that might be your lucky seat. Don't go red dot, though, because you might not get any balls. But go green dot and get as many home run balls as you think you can catch.
Yep. You click the seat. You check out what your view is. Each ticket's rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know you're getting a good deal. And that's what AJ's talking about. Green good, red bad, with those dots. And the code for you, Territory10 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any MLB tickets with promo code Territory10. Make sure you click the link in the description of this episode. That'll help you download the app and get the code automatically added to your account so that you can use it later. Thank you to SeatGeek.
Back here on Fish on First Live to recap the rest of the series and preview the Mariners series coming up back at home starting later this week. We'll move past Eury talk and All-Star talk. We hit on Max and Otto and their rightful selections to the All-Star game, which will be awesome. Kevin, you'll be there to see that. That should be cool. We'll talk about Sandy. We talked about wins for Max and how he racked them up. I mean, Sandy, here he comes again. I mean, he's racked up, 7 in a row, and it's been pretty damn well deserved. I mean, he hasn't lost a game in a while. And one of the key cogs in what the Marlins were able to do in June was Sandy out there every 5th day getting a dub. So pretty cool for Sandy. I think this start, it showed a lot of the reason why he's an ace. He throws out a 20-pitch first and somehow pitches through the 8th inning. I mean, that's the stuff of aces. After a long first inning, to go deep in a game, you're going to have to be economical with your pitches, not only in one inning, but probably in a few innings. And he had 3 innings under 9 pitches, which is just incredible. It wasn't all about the strikeout. There were some of those. Really just the zone pounding stuff from Sandy. Here it is. Come get it. You're not going to hit it, so I don't care. Got some whiffs as well, but really was purposely all around the strike zone, particularly with sinkers, a bit sinker heavy in the start, but that's okay. We really only saw the changeup versus lefties, other side of the plate. So, I mean, he was really just coming right at guys, and it worked. And he pitched into the 8th inning and showed why he's still a Cy Young Award winner. So incredible start for Sandy, especially after that rough first. I was like, okay, it's probably going to need the bullpen, and you barely needed it. So thoughts on Sandy in this one, Eli? Go ahead.
You covered it well, where I do feel like I've seen that script a bunch of times during Sandy's career, where it doesn't necessarily look like he has it all working early on, and then he just figures it out. He makes adjustments. Doesn't really get as much credit as he probably should for being as cerebral of a pitcher as he is and being as adaptable as he is. And now in this era, in this Bendix era of pitch calling from the dugout, it's not all on him to make those adjustments. Part of it is the help from the pitching coaches as well. But as a collaborative group, it's been working out. And this was great. Like this, honestly, his performance wasn't all that far removed from what Eury was doing just in terms of quality. I mean, the results weren't close to perfect, but there was a shutout going into that 8th inning. I had felt like there was a decent chance that he was going to finish that game all by himself just yesterday. And also in the same situation, given that he had a very healthy lead to work with, understandably, that's a big element when it comes to looking at this long win streak that he has, one that wasn't even matched during his Cy Young year. I tweeted that out. I want to like bring it up again, that he, not even during his Cy Young year did he have a streak like this, 7 consecutive starts of his that the team won. Forget him. He's gotten the winning decision in all those games, but even just the Marlins winning 7 straight Sandy starts had been unprecedented until this streak. And during that streak, they've been scoring upwards of 7 runs per game. This has been a very average offensive performance behind him since the start of June that he's had. So that naturally helps a lot. It's just good to see. You feel, all overall, you just feel good for the guy, because he's had to, especially early in his career, I remember how much of a narrative it was that he was doing it all by himself, that he was losing games in spite of great pitching, just because the run support was right near the very bottom of the league. Like, we've experienced both ends of that. And so this is a very refreshing change for him. It's something that he's certainly not familiar with, to have this kind of support. And it speaks to just how well the team is playing overall, that offensively, this is on pace. Overall, of course, this is on pace to be one of the best teams in Marlins history. But offensively, that seems like even more secure, that this really is at worst, a top 3 offense in the team's history. Now, just the depth that they have and the improvement that they've had today, for example, against left-handed pitching. Remember, that was a story early in the year, that at least against lefties, you could beat up this team. You could force, when they were sitting some key guys, they wouldn't get nearly the same production from the platoon players that were coming in. And that trend has kind of been squashed as this year has gone on. So to me, like, that's as good as the starting pitching has been. To me, the offense is top of mind. The fact that they have, during this road trip, they really lit it up. Even, you could use all the qualifiers you want, but offensively, this has been a stretch that we've just rarely seen in Marlins history, and it's really encouraging moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just Sandy being in the middle of it, it has to be that way, right? I mean, it's only right that happens. So I thought that, like we said, a really good start this last time out for Sandy. And, even if it didn't look that way at first, to make that happen, and to just make it work and make it happen, no matter what you have to do, no matter which way you have to pitch, guys, is Sandy in a nutshell. He's going to do everything that he can to get the job done, and did it well in this one. I want to hit on one more guy, singular player, before we move on from the series. I wanted to hit on 2 more, but we went a little long on Eury, understandably so. So I want to hit on Joe Mack, who had a fantastic West Coast swing. We only saw him really in 2 games in this series, but he did it a home run. Actually, he hit 3 home runs on this road trip, which is awesome. You're starting to see the offense show up. Took him a little while. I mean, with any young player, it's going to happen, especially a catcher. But you're starting to see what this guy can do with the bag. He's been a little bit more patient. He's been able to drive pitches a little bit better. The swings are looking better all the time for him, and the defense just continues. So, we've thrown this talk around for a while about extension candidates for the Marlins. We've talked about Pérez. We've talked about Marcy at one time. We've talked about, a few other, Thomas White I even mentioned as a guy, maybe even before he makes his debut, which would be historical. But I think the most obvious answer to the question of who do the Marlins extend, if there's going to be one guy, it has to be this player. This is a franchise cornerstone. I liken him to a lefty hitting JT Realmuto, which is a cornerstone catcher. I think it's a little bit too soon to say he's Yadi Molina. I've seen that comparison as well, but I really like him as a true defensive catcher who is going to hit for a good average, a good power. I think that he really could get to a ceiling likened to JT Realmuto. That's my opinion. So my question to you guys, Kevin, I'll let you go on this one. Do they extend Joe Mack? Why should they? And when should they do it?
Will they extend Joe Mack? I don't know. Should they extend Joe Mack? Hell yeah. And yeah, our friend Louis Adeo Weiss throwing at the Yachty comp after saying that Joe Mack had no aura is it was something. But apology piece from him coming soon, by the way. But yeah, no, since the start of June, Joe Mack is raking. He has a 962 OPS. That doesn't include today's game. I don't think he ended up taking it at bat, but 299 batting average. Like, what he's doing is truly impressive. And even if he wasn't posting a 900 something OPS, like, the fact that he behind the plate.
Oh, great.
Existed.
Okay.
So, great stuff from Mac, and phenomenal month of June. He probably should have been up there for Rookie of the Month, just the way he played. And we're starting to finally see the power come in a little bit more too, which is great. And I think we always said this, the icing on the cake with this whole thing would be that Joe Mack, his bat translates from what we saw in the minor leagues to now, and that's been the case so far. This is probably the best case scenario in terms of what the Marlins expected from Mack, because you could have expected him to continue to struggle the way he was early on, but he really kept it going, and he really just kept improving. So shout out to him. This is one of the best defensive catchers Marlins have had in a very long time, and just the way, just watching games, it feels so much more comforting knowing that Mack is back there, and when a guy runs, in all likelihood, the guy trying to steal second is going to get thrown out. I think Mack has 14 or 15 caught stealings already this season, and maybe 16 already, but the season he's having is just impressive, and shout out to him. And yeah, I would extend him easily, Carver. There's no question about it. He should be the Marlins extension candidate, and he's young. He's still, I know he's got years left, so maybe the Marlins want to play those out. But when you have a guy like Joe Mack and you have a catcher and you have the opportunity to extend a young player, and not just extend him for the baseball stuff of it, but just for the fact that it would win over a fan base, that's something that you'll do.
What I will say about Joe Mack, he's thrown out 16 runners trying to steal so far this year, which is just incredible. I think he's got to be one of the most valuable assets that the team has had in a very long time in terms of just age, arbitration status, how much money he's making, and immediate impact to their major league team. I know Eli put out a piece a while ago, the most valuable players in the whole organization, major league and minor league too. I think Thomas White was up there, 2023. Eury Pérez, for example, would be high up there. But Joe Mack, the Marlins have a real diamond here. And I don't know if they'll be able to extend him. I'm not sure if you do it just to win over a fan base. You don't do that either. However, he has not looked overmatched in the major leagues in the slightest. Maybe he is adjusting back to major league pitching after he looked a little bit overwhelmed in his first month or so, and he's adjusted back. We'll see what happens when the league adjusts back as well. But he has just looked so comfortable behind the dish in every facet of catching and as well in the batter's box that he looks just as good as he did in AAA and hitting wise. So they've got a real valuable guy here, and I'm going to be really curious to see what they do with him. Remember, he was a high school catching draft pick, so those are usually rare. He's pretty young, and if they did want to extend him, it would be swell, but they have him through 2033. So yeah, like I said, I think one of the most valuable assets that this team has had in a long time.
Right. And valuable assets are expensive assets too. So it would take I would assume a pretty big number to extend him. I don't know, maybe this early on, but if he keeps doing what he's doing, maybe in a year, it's going to get tough.
Yeah, it's part of my offseason blueprint to extend him before his debut. And I don't think there was a whole lot of people on the same boat with me with that, given that Gus was already at the major league level and that Mack had some inconsistencies in his minor league career. To me, it always made a lot of sense. Although the interesting complication is that it's going to be very hard to find another catcher that you really love if it's not him, if he's not the guy. There are so few alternatives that reach the open market, because the other side of that coin is that this is a position that ages more quickly than most others. Once guys are free agent eligible, in his case, he'd be reaching free agency right around his 30th birthday, right after he turns 30. And a lot of catchers are already well into decline. Like some of them, their peak just doesn't align with the typical position player just due to the physical demands of the position, where a lot of guys, once they are free agent eligible at the catcher position, they're just not all that interesting. It'll be a long time before somebody gets like the average annual value that Real Muto got as a free agent. He was kind of a big exception to that norm. But for most guys, you look at free agency almost every year, and the catcher lists are guys that you consider more so as backups, or guys that you don't fully trust defensively anymore, ones that are closer to a part-time DH. I remember when Mitch Garver was a free agent a few years ago, and Marlins fans are so excited about Mitch Garver, and he ends up getting like a modest 2-year deal from the Mariners and ends up really underperforming even that deal. And that was like the jewel of the available catchers that year. And of course, the excitement even before that for Jacob Stallings, and they traded for Jacob Stallings, and he was already into his early 30s, and his career immediately like imploded once they acquired him at that stage. So with that being said, they already have control over him through his entire 20s, and that kind of takes away some of the urgency to extend him. But again, with all that being said, I was on this train even before he debuted. I think that he is exceptional enough that you really want to buy out as much of his entire career as possible. I think he is a very well-rounded player, not a perfect player, still going to have some limitations in the batting average department and therefore the on-base department. but the defense has been exactly as good as advertised. Today's passed ball notwithstanding. I don't think people are going to remember that. They're going to remember the Fairbanks struggling and Bacher struggling. They're not going to remember Joe Mack behind the plate in the 9th inning, making things a little bit more tense than they need to be. He's an awesome defensive player. He really gets it. I think in more ways than one. So they're in good shape that they have him. It really is such a dramatic change even from a year ago, just because you trust him defensively at the position first. And so far he's been giving you a lot of extra value with the bat as well. So it's been he's overperformed if that was possible.
One other thing that we may forget about this last game that just happened, and this is the last thing that we'll get to. We could be brief on this, guys, before we hit to Seattle, and we'll be brief on that too before prediction time. But one more thing I want to get to that people may forget is that Jacob Marcy is injured. He got hit by a pitch in this game, and it looked like it went off his knee or something, and he was removed from this game. So I already wanted to talk about Marcy, to his credit, has looked slightly better in his last couple of at-bats, but is still a struggle a lot of times that he's at the plate. So he's had a whole first half to do it. I hope he's okay, and he's not like he can come back and he's okay for this upcoming series. We'll find out on that. But I did want to hit on him regardless, if he does have to go to the IL or not. I guess if he does, it's even more of a point to bring up. What do the Marlins do with that position, which is a hole? Not defensively, it's not a hole, but offensively, that position is a true hole right now with how Jacob Marcy is still struggling. So if the Marlins are true buyers at the deadline, is this a position that they address to get Marcy the time he needs in the minors? Is it a priority for them, and can they fill it, and who would they fill it with? So Isaac, I'll hit with you on this. I know you're always up on the roster move talk and trade talk and stuff like that. So I want to ask you that. Is this a priority for them? This is still a player that can be good. Yes. I think it's a player that needs to figure it out in the minors, as do a few others. I mean, he's been given the whole first half, and he's still not very good at the plate offensively. Defensively, different story. He's very good. The Marlins in the system, as you know, don't have a lot of true center fielders close unless you rush Cam Cannarella, which I don't think they will do. So would they look outside of the organization for a center fielder at the deadline?
Yeah, no, most certainly they won't be looking to replace that position this deadline anyway. Maybe in the offseason you could look at a stopgap option, but I do know that they're very, very fond of their AA outfield with Jones, Lewis, and Cannarella. I think at least one of those will be big league ready by next year, probably not Lewis. And so to me, they're not worried in the slightest about Marcy still. I think he has sort of tempered their expectations coming off that awesome August. And no, I'm not going to say second half, because it really just was the month of August. That was spectacular for Marcy. In this case, he's still getting on base a little bit. He's still providing value with defense, still providing value on the bases. However, he is certainly the weak link in that lineup most of the time against right-handed pitching. The Marlins have brought him down from the leadoff spot and the number 3 spot all the way down to 7 and 8 regularly now. So you're seeing them sort of lose a little bit of faith there. But I think he's still their guy. He's going to be their guy throughout the rest of this season, no doubt about it. I don't see them demoting him. And I don't see them going outside the organization for any outfielders, to be honest with you. I think, like I said, they're really, really fond of those AA outfielders they have in Pensacola. And I think this is a good problem to have, that, hey, one of your 12 position players that are good is not playing so well. So I think they're okay with what's going on there.
Yeah, I feel like we want to talk about the minor leagues on here enough, and I think it's time we do, because Cam Cannarella is on a heater. Like, that guy has gone to AA and feels like he knows the level perfectly. He's been almost perfect. Like, we choose a prospect of the week every week, and Cam Cannarella should get it again this week, if I'm being totally honest with you, at the rate he's going. But just to be fair, we have to choose a different guy. We're going to choose a different guy each week. I think Carver would agree with that. But at the rate that this guy's going, what else does this guy have to prove in AA? And I guess we could pose the question to all of you guys. Like, if he keeps this up and, the defense is good, like, at what point do you think this guy should be a major leaguer? Because, like, it's a legit question to ask at the rate that he's going. And it's not like he's striking out 30% of the time or anything like that. Like, he's walking, he's getting on base, the power's there. The power's actually an added thing that you'd love to see. But, like, the hit tool's been great since he's gone to the Marlins. The injuries have been the big issue with him, and he's been healthy for over a month now, I think. So, like, Carver, if you want to go, but, like, this is a guy who you could probably promote to AAA, and you could even make the argument that he could jump AAA straight to the bigs at the rate that he's going, because we've already discussed this many times. The actual competition level from double to triple is not the biggest, or but like if the Marlins find themselves in a position where they need to address this position somehow, if Marcy keeps struggling and Ruiz really isn't the answer there, Cam Canarella is an option for this team, in my opinion.
I would agree with Isaac, is that it would be a very short-term answer if they did decide to go outside of the order, because they are very high on all three of those guys. I think that two of those guys, Trimble and Lewis, will be corner guys, whereas I think Canarella will be a true center fielder. So, and he's close. So, I mean, is there a real reason to go rent right now? I mean, if you really think you're in contention, you could go rent Dalton Varsho. But I don't think they will either. But I had that question posed to me a couple times. What do you do with Marcy? And I would agree with Isaac. I think that they will make do with him there without sacrificing those great prospects that they are very high on. So I don't know if anybody has any other thoughts on that before we go to a final break.
Yeah, really quick, Carver. If it comes down to Marcy, he's played all the time. I mean, now we're approaching the All-Star break. I mean, so first half of the season, it's been Jacob Marcy. So why would they kind of try to move on from him as a starter right now? They know they're contenders, but it's not a priority because they do believe that the value he brings defensively outweighs the offensive production. And I do think there's going to come a time when the offensive production starts to elevate itself. I mean, it really can't get much worse, you would assume. But, the Marlins, we talked about Owen Casey earlier and potentially setting him down. They want to see these young guys work through their struggles at the major league level, which I can get behind in a lot of cases. We've talked about third base. I think that's the position that they're going to attack this trade deadline rather than center field, because Marcy does provide defensive value there, regardless of, the hit tool right now. We'll see what happens.
I think you guys touched on that pretty well, but yeah, a whole lot more to cover on Marcy once we know about the severity of this contusion. If they're labeling it a contusion, that means it's usually a sigh of relief, usually suggests that he should be back on the other side of the off day, but we'll have to find out as it goes along. So back on the other side of this break in just a moment after a word from our friends at FanDuel.
This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Baseball fans, the MLB season is in full swing, and FanDuel is giving you a chance to call your shot with daily dingers. Joining the action is easy. Just make your free pick on who's hitting a home run in their game, and if you're right, you'll get a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. It's just another reason why FanDuel is the home of home runs. So are you ready to play your game? Head over to FanDuel.com/podcast to get started. That's FanDuel.com/podcast to opt in for daily dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of Major League Baseball. No purchase necessary. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
Putting the most unsatisfying sweep behind us and looking ahead to Seattle Mariners for a 3-game series starting day after tomorrow, I think. It will be a Mariners team that I don't think you can classify this as anything more than or other than disappointing for their fans. I mean, this high-powered offense that they thought they had coming into this season with Cal Raleigh and Julio Rodriguez and Josh Naylor, their best hitter is Luke Raley. So, I mean, there's one thing I want to highlight about this offense, and that is just this astronomical fall off of Cal Raleigh. I mean, coming off of a 60-plus home run season, at this point in the season last year, Cal Raleigh had 23 home runs and was hitting 267. That's through 58 games. I know he was injured, so I just did it through 58 games. And through 58 games this year, he has 9 home runs and is hitting 161. So this, a guy that almost won an MVP over one of the best hitters in the league, is now one of the worst hitters in baseball. That is something I don't think we have seen in a very long time. So, Eli, can you put into perspective this season so far for Cal Raleigh. It's been pretty bad.
Yeah, the boring way to put into perspective is that if you average out last season and what he's done so far this year, it looks pretty similar to his career numbers, where he's over. If you combine those 2 seasons, he's still a good offensive catcher and one that has somewhat suppressed batting average, but a ton of power. And so from one aspect, I think that is, even though it's a boring answer for a guy that has a decent major league track record in terms of length to this point, like he's kind of shown us who he was prior to last year. Last year was pretty far out of line with who he had been the previous half decade, with the guy that had earned that extension. That was a big extension that made him, I think, at this moment, he's now the highest paid catcher in the game, with Real Muto having graduated to a smaller contract in decline, but one that seemed not totally crazy. And that looked like a bargain initially, and now it looks like somewhat of a long-term concern, if not fair at the very best. So I think that's a boring answer, is that there were still these lingering concerns, as amazing as a run as he went on last year, where for the vast majority of the season, like he was mashing to reach those kind of numbers. It still didn't feel like he was suddenly going to be that guy permanently moving forward. And that this year's just been a crazier what's where I'm looking for, regression to the mean, more severe than anybody could have envisioned from his standpoint. But I think that just is the way that things go sometimes, especially if there's injury involved. He did have an oblique injury. Late May is when he finally went on the IL with that, and he missed a few weeks. Now he's back. He did hit a home run very recently to show that he still does have that potential to do so. But yeah, just overall mechanically out of sync, and I think almost certainly physically is tying into that with the fact that he's had such bad results. So it's a fascinating shift. I think it, again, going back to the Joe Mack discussion, it's why his catchers are not all that common of an extension candidate, just because how much the offensive production can oscillate from year to year due to some other factors that go involved with that position that sometimes, disrupt what you can actually do at the plate, just because you have a whole lot more on your plate than just what you're doing offensively. So he's kind of a prime example, somewhat of a cautionary tale in terms of getting too excited about a catcher for any stretch of time, just because of how rapidly things can change. He'll bounce back, but for the Marlins' sake, hopefully it's a little while longer. Hopefully there's a chance it might not happen until 2027. I do think he still has a terrific career in front of him, though. But this is just one of those years where everything that can go wrong for him on an individual level has gone wrong.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, volatility with the position too, and then injury mixed in, just hasn't ever really gotten going this year. And hopefully he doesn't do that in this series. But another guy there's been volatility with is an old friend of ours, Mr. Josh Naylor. This guy, he's done this before in his career too, where he follows up a fantastic year with a bad year from 2023 into 2024. Is kind of a similar story for him. So Jeremiah, I'll go to you on this. Is this just him showing that again? Is this just a streaky player? Because the Mariners gave him a hell of a lot of money for him to be underperforming. So was one of the highest priced free agents this past offseason. The Mariners brought him back, and been pretty underwhelming so far for Josh Naylor, who's sitting at 251, 312, and a under 400 slugging percentage for a true power hitter. So is Naylor a streaky player, or can he get past this season?
Yeah, I think it's fair to describe him as streaky, just given the lack of power that he's shown. I know Seattle's a very tough ballpark to hit in, but Seattle's camp was obviously confident that he was going to perform this year. Just hasn't happened. Like Eli said earlier about Cal Raleigh, it's just one of those years where it doesn't feel like anything's clicking. The Mariners are still in position to. There's still a possibility that Naylor figures it out, that Cal Raleigh figures it out, but it's got to happen for this stretch run. And luckily their pitching has kept them alive. Do I still think that Naylor has it in him? Yes, I do. It's just that ballpark is hard to hit. We saw that with Eugenio Suarez last year, even when he came over from the D-backs at the trade deadline. So Naylor, it could be a little bit of both, but at least the average is in a manageable spot. It's not like he's completely fallen off the face of the earth.
What the Mariners do have is pitching, whether it be in the bullpen or in their rotation. The Marlins will see that in this series. I mean, their pitching has been damn good. Their team ERA is 3.48 or was before today. I'm sorry. Their team ERA is 3.59, which is like third best or fourth best in baseball. Their bullpen ERA is 3.48, which is third best in baseball. So, I mean, they're carried by Gilbert, Wu, Kirby, Hancock. All these pitchers are damn good. So that's kind of how they are 2 games over 500. They've built that up mostly from within. So pretty cool to see them do that from within. I'm always a fan of that. Of course, as a fan of the Marlins, we're fans of teams that kind of build from within. So quick hit real quick on their pitching staff. Eli, go ahead.
Projected. It hasn't been scheduled yet from their side, but most likely we'll see. Geez, I guess it could be Hancock and Kirby and Wu the way that is current. No, it would probably be Kirby, Wu, and Bryce Miller, who sort of faded to the background. I think he's been overshadowed by those other guys in previous years. Bryce Miller coming off the IL at the start of the year, he's been their best pitcher when available. Like, he has a 1.71 ERA this year in 9 appearances. Most recent one was 7 almost perfect innings, almost perfect, not quite Eury level, but 7 innings, 2-hitter against the Angels a few days ago. Yeah, the Marlins are going to see some of that, the very best pitching that they have to offer. Those guys that really, it has been a highly unusually successful run to have the same core of guys on a starting rotation be there, be available for the most part, with a few injury exceptions year after year after year. Now for the better part of 4 years, it's been kind of the same handful of guys that are making almost all their starts. So they've been fortunate on that end. Or you could say maybe there's something deeper down going on there in terms of how they're keeping everybody healthy and consistent, but that's been the core of their team. That's why they've been having a winning record for each of these last several years. And that's why that was so important, of course, for them to make such a deep playoff run as they did last season, the deepest playoff run that the franchise had in almost a quarter century. That starting pitching has been top of mind when it comes to this team. So the Marlins are going to be tested directly against some of the very best that they have to offer. And it's been a bit of a contrast from the Marlins, who have had very good starting pitching on the top end, on and off these last few years, but rotation depth is pretty consistently a question, as it is even right now for the team. So it is an interesting contrast. The one other element to this I wanted to point out is that the Marlins do have a better record than the Mariners, who happen to lead the American League West. Like, that is something that continues to be top of mind, is that if the Marlins were in a different division right now, the level of excitement, I think, would be even higher, just considering where they would be, the realistic chance that they'd have to actually win a division. This AL West has been up for grabs all year long. People went into the year assuming the Mariners were significant favorites. And so for the moment, they're clinging to a small lead. And I would say that the average person would still expect them to be the most likely team to come out of that. But they haven't pulled away from the rest of the division the way that I think a lot of people envisioned that they would. So one other element to that for this series, Julio Rodriguez, he's on the concussion IL. So I believe he's going to be ineligible for these next few games. That's going to be just another small thing in the Marlins' favor, is that they're not quite facing a full strength Mariners team. Not only do they they're going through those guys we've already highlighted that are slumping and underperforming their career norms, but Julio Rodriguez, who, from my opinion, would probably be their best overall player on a year in, year out basis, he's not going to be available for them. So that's going to be just one other thing to keep in mind over these next 3 games.
From the Marlins side of things, they also will have the benefit of getting a little healthier with, I think we expect Jansen Junk to pitch the Wednesday game. I guess it could be Braxton, but I think Junk's last rehab outing went fine. So, I think that he will be healthy enough to return that day. Should also see All-Star Max Meyer in the first game if things line up and we expect.
That's the one thing that's already been penciled in officially, is Max is starting on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And another element to bring up with Max is that he's an All-Star, of course, but if you pitch the Sunday before the All-Star break, you're actually ineligible no matter what to pitch in the game itself. As things line up, if he's pitching on Tuesday, his regularly scheduled start after that will be on Sunday, the final pre-All-Star break game. We'll be curious to see how that unfolds. I mean, they don't have room to play everybody in the All-Star game anyway, but the way that it's trending right now, it looks like Max won't actually be pitching in the All-Star game just because of the way that the schedule lines up for him.
Still being there is going to be great for him. So pitching the games that matter, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
I think we're up against it, Eli. We're 13 minutes over. So I know we went a little long on Eury, but we do want to get to prediction time, our favorite segment of the show. So hopefully the Marlins keep this going. We are catching back up into Miami. We'll, of course, have coverage there from Fish on First. And the Marlins riding high after that high-scoring effort against the A's. So catching a good pitching staff at a good time. Will they win the series, and how many games will they win? Hit that now in prediction time.
Yeah, we'll find out in just a minute. Of course, we got to shout out, as always, our friends at Jet Ski Rentals of South Florida. They present all of our podcast efforts here on Fish on First. Miami's best jet ski and boat adventures, Jet Ski Rentals of South Florida. With 6 jet ski locations and over 120 boats, there's something for every style and every budget. Ride jet skis right in front of the downtown skyline and Ferris wheel, or book your own private boat starting as low as $300 with the captain included. Bring your drinks to your friends and enjoy the water your way. The boat is completely yours for the time you reserve it. The reservation based only. To book, call 305-990-2192 or check them out online at sfjetskirentals.com. Make sure to use our promo code FISHONFIRST, and that gets you a 10% discount off your next booking. Again, that's 305-990-2192 or online at sfjetskirentals.com. This is prediction time.
That's my prediction, but who knows?
Can the Marlins keep it going after a sweep against the A's and an overall successful West Coast road trip, coming back to Lone Depot to welcome in the well off in the pitching department Mariners, not so much offensively. Marlins have Max Jansen and I'm guessing Tyler Phillips as their pitchers against what has been not a great offense. So I think catching this team at a really good time. But do we think they'll win the series? Jeremiah, I will go to you first. Are they winning the series again?
I'm going to go with yes. I think they take 2 out of 3. This offense is on fire. Otto Lopez is on fire. Edilberto Hernandez on fire. Marlins win 2 out of 3. Mariners pitching is good, but this Marlins team, man, they're legit, and they're going to find a way to win this series. Otto Lopez, MVP.
Great picks. I'm going to agree. I'm going to say that the Marlins are catching this team at a really good time. On fire offensively, as you said, Jeremiah, and I think that if the pitching falters, they'll do enough against a good pitching team to battle out, I think, some close games, but I think that they will win this series 2-1. And let's go with the other All-Star. You picked one. I'm going to pick the other one. Max Meyer is going to be your series MVP.
As usual, I'll find a way to twist it negative when things are going oh so well for this Marlins team. I'll have them losing 2 out of 3 to Seattle over these next 3 games. That I think Seattle does have the high enough upside with their pitching, the few rare talents that I think can actually silence this red hot Marlins offense for, if not an entire game at a time, then most innings at a time. And I do like the back end of their bullpen very much as well, more so than the Marlins at this particular moment. So I'll have Seattle winning 2 out of 3 in closely contested games, with the Marlins offense coming back down to earth a bit. And for series MVP, I'll go with Dominic Canzone, who's having a great year for this Mariners team. Probably their best overall hitter when he gets into the lineup, a guy that strongly prefers to face right-handed pitching, and the Marlins have so much right-handed pitching. Guys that, as we've seen just the last couple of days, when they're on top of their game, it doesn't matter lefty or righty who you are, they can mow you down. So that's something to keep in mind. But in a series where we're not going to see Sandy and we're not going to see Eury, I think Canzone is going to be very comfortable and do quite a bit of slugging to push Seattle over the top.
All right. See which of us are correct. One of us will be in terms of who wins the series. So we'll see. I think it'll be a tightly contested series. So I'm actually pretty excited for this one. But that'll do it for us on today's show. Thanks for digesting that series with us, which it was a great series sweep, but just a little bit sour at the end of it. But they're looking ahead and going to see what they can do against the Mariners. We'll have folks there covering it. Got some cool stuff coming up on the podcast as well, so stay tuned for that. Excited about all that stuff as well, so stay tuned to our coverage wherever you guys are getting it. Appreciate you staying tuned to this one as we went a bit over time, but had a lot to talk about. So for now, on this one, for myself, Alex, for Eli, Jeremiah, great work at the park this series. Again, Jeremiah, that was awesome following along with you. Congrats for getting there as well. Glad to have West Coast coverage. That was cool to see. And we'll have more of that coming up as the Marlins impart on this homestand here in Miami. So we'll be back with you at the end of this series as we look ahead to what I think is going to be the final series before the All-Star break, coming up against the Guardians, I believe it is. So we'll be there for that one as well. So tune in again to that one on Fish on First Live. But that's it for this one. We'll see you guys again soon on Fish on First Live, presented by Jet Ski Rentals of South Florida. Of course, always on the Foul Territory Network. Appreciate you all. Take care. Go Fish.